speaking to the religious leaders who are really religious and really strict. And the reason why I say that is he's talking to the regular townspeople. He says this. He says, yes, you know me, and you know where I come from. You know that because their last statement is, he will simply appear, no one will know where he comes from. But he's kind of responding, yeah, you know me, you know where I come from. But I'm not here on my own, meaning, I'm sent by God. The one who sent me is true, and you don't know him, right? So he's talking to people that don't know God. He says, you don't know him, but trust me, he's true, and he sent me here for you. He sent me here to help you. And so there's this undertone of hope in Jesus. He's like, you might not know what I'm about, but trust me that God is true, he's faithful, and he's just, and he sent me here to you, right? And so that's an encouraging thing for people that are trying to figure out, well, is Jesus real, or is he really the Messiah, or is he just some crazy guy that's saying all these crazy things? And so as they're evaluating that, Jesus is trying to say, hey, I'm him. I am the Son of God, and I'm here, I was sent here for you. But the reason why I also believe he's talking to the Pharisees is right after that, verse 30 says, then the leaders tried to arrest him, but no one laid a hand on him because his time had not yet come. So obviously that statement had upset the religious leaders. It had upset the people who were at the top of the food chain in the Jewish faith. And they knew exactly what he was saying. They knew that he was saying, I am the Son of God, because they were the ones that were saying he wasn't. They were the ones that wanted him dead. They were the ones that wanted to see him arrested. And I don't think that Jesus fit the way they wanted to get to him, right? Because the Pharisees were very strict. The Pharisees and Sadducees and the religious leaders, they were very strict. And if you do any research, you'll find out that the Pharisees, although they were very strict, were the least strict of the top elite religious sects. S-E-C-T-S, sects. So they were really, really strict, and so they obeyed laws to get to God. It was on their own effort, on their own obedience, that they tried to get a relationship with God. We'll get into that a little bit more. But the reason why I think that's important is because I think a lot of Christians today, we want to distance ourselves from the Pharisees, and we should. But I don't think sometimes we look at the similarities in our lives that we have with the Pharisees. I think it's very dangerous today. It's a very dangerous thing to Andy talks about all the time is the religiosity, the religion of churches. And thinking that our obedience, our efforts gain us a standing before God. Because it's very humbling to have to know that you have nothing to offer him. You have nothing that God wants as far as you making up for your own sins. And so, as we kind of move on, we see that these leaders want him dead. All right, so verse 31 says, Many among the crowds at the temple believed in him. After all, they said, would you expect the Messiah to do more miraculous signs than this man has done? When the Pharisees heard that the crowds were whispering such things, they and the leading priests sent temple guards to arrest Jesus. And before I get to how Jesus responds to that, you see that some people in the crowd are hearing Jesus speak. They're hearing Jesus talk. And they're seeing all the miraculous signs he's doing. And they're saying, well, look at all he's doing. Could the Messiah do more than him? We believe Moses was from God and he did miraculous signs. But these signs that Jesus are doing, walking on water, feeding 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And you'll be proud of me, I didn't say 5 fish and 2 loaves. But, he's doing all these miraculous things. So they're thinking, well, the Messiah couldn't do more than him. He must be him. And so the temple, the leading priests and the Pharisees, they get wind of this, and that upsets them, so they want Jesus dead. And so they send out the temple guards, which, from my best understanding, is just like the temple police officers. The Romans let the Jews kind of govern themselves, and the governing thing was a religious court called the Sanhedrin. And so the Sanhedrin was headed up by the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Actually, the Sadducees were the main people in charge of it, but the Pharisees were also involved. And so they got together and decided to send out these police officers to arrest Jesus. And this is where Jesus was just a bad dude in a good way. So I don't know what kind of way they came at Jesus, but they're coming to get Jesus. They're coming to arrest him. I don't know if they had guns. And they put your hands up. Is that how they do it, Steve? I don't know if they had pitchforks. I don't know what they came to arrest him with. I don't know. But all I know is that Jesus is cool. So they come to him, right? And let me talk to you guys for a second. Guys, we like action movies. I mean, a lot of them these days are kind of bad and we can't watch them, but for some reason, most guys like action movies because they kind of have like this, this hero, and when there's the final conflict when everybody's surrounding them, and they always have one cool line that they say at the end, and it's like, I don't know, hasta la vista, baby, or I don't know, whatever. But I kind of get this scene like they're coming to arrest Jesus with their whatever, and swords. There you go. But Jesus looks at them and he says this, and I think this is so cool. I'm going to try to put on my action hero voice. I don't know that I have one, but okay, they come to arrest him and he says, I will be with you only a little while longer. Then I will return to the one who sent me. You will search for me and not find me. And you cannot go where I'm going. That's the best I got. So I'm like, they're coming to arrest him, and like Jesus is like, he says this to him, and it's so cool. It's like, you're not going to arrest me. You have no power right now to arrest me. I'm in the middle of preaching to the crowd, which is, first of all, to me, that's crazy. Right? Jesus knows they want to kill him. They know they want him to be arrested. And, I would be thinking, okay, these people want to harm me if I say anything, so I am going to go to this festival. I'm going to say hi to Peter, maybe eat some food, and just hang out. Like, I'm not going to try and ruffle any feathers. I'm not going to try and, raise problems. But Jesus goes right to the leaders, right to the people that are in charge that have this elitist attitude. And, he starts saying, I will feel a little while longer, then I'll return to the one who sent me. Meaning he's going back to God. And you will search for me, but you won't find me. And so, like, these leaders are like, what is he talking about? Like, Like, they completely found him. They're ready to arrest him. They're ready to kill him. And, they're just like, well, what is he planning to do? Where's he planning to go? They asked. Is he thinking of leaving the country and going to be with the Jews and other lands? Maybe he will even teach the Greeks. What does he mean when he says this? You will search for me, but not find me, and you cannot go where I'm going. And by the way, I want to back up just a little bit. When Jesus says, I kind of missed this point, but I think it's really cool and also makes Jesus look like a really bad dude in a good way. When he was talking to the Pharisees and he said, the one who sent me is true and you don't know him. Like, how crazy is that? These are the people that know the Word of God. They're the people that's supposed to know not Jesus. They're supposed to know God the best. And Jesus walks up to them in front of everybody and says, you don't know God. I mean, I think that's pretty incredible. That'd be like me telling you guys don't know Jesus. You don't have a relationship with Jesus. You think you do, but you don't. I mean, that's pretty offensive, hard stuff that he's telling these people. I mean, he was right. But I mean, like, he just said, you don't know God. And I just picture how angry that would have made them, because I picture how angry it would make me if someone says, you don't know Jesus. And if I'm misguided, that's a good thing. But, it's crazy what Jesus does. And so then it says the Jewish leaders were puzzled by this statement. I already read that. And so the cool thing is, I want to skip ahead really to verse 45 and 46. And then we'll come back and deal with what Jesus says. But it says this. It says, Andy hit on this a little bit last week. It says, when the temple guards returned without having arrested Jesus, the leading priests and Pharisees demanded, why didn't you bring him in? Then they said, we have never heard anyone speak like this. The guards responded. Right? So these are the people that were sent to arrest and kill Jesus. That was their job. And they go back to the Pharisees and the religious leaders, the people who sent them, and they're like, why didn't you get Jesus? And they didn't say, well, he beat us up and took our swords. They just said, we've never heard anyone speak like this. We've never heard the things that he said, right? And I'm going to go back, and we're going to look right now, we're going to spend the rest of the time looking at what Jesus said. Because I just want to at first kind of set the scene of the people that were listening, the people that were the hearers of what Jesus is about to say. So verse 37, it says, on the last day, the climax of the festival, Jesus stood and shouted to the crowds, anyone who is thirsty may come to me. Anyone who believes in me may come and drink, for the scriptures declare rivers of living water will flow from his heart. So there's 5 things that I want you to pull out of this passage. And I'm going to go through the 5 things really fast, and I'm going to unpack them a little bit. And so the first thing is the invitation is for everyone, for anyone. The second thing is you were made to drink of God. The third is you don't have to quench your own thirst. The fourth is you will never be thirsty again. And the fifth thing is, even though you can drink freely, it was not free. So, those are the 5 things we're going to look at really quickly. So, verse 1, point 1 is the invitation is for anyone. You know, Jesus said, anyone who is thirsty may come to me. Right? That's incredible, because look who he was talking to. He was talking to people that wanted him dead. He was talking to people that wanted to harm him. And he was also talking to people that wanted to check him out. So this thirst that God is offering to quench is available to anyone. And I think so many times there's people that feel separated from God before they even hear about the gospel, before they even hear that he loves them. They feel like they are not good enough, or they feel like they don't wear the right clothes, or they had too bad a life, and they feel separated from God before they even hear the gospel, before they even hear that their sin is what separates them from him.